All right, so here I'm going to walk you through basically from where the last video left off. I believe that was May 3rd or something like that. So you have chosen your poet, E.E. Cummings, Sonia Sanchez, Carolyn Forche. And what we'll do now is we'll head to a module and we'll just pick on a recent one because they all contain the necessary information. So let's actually head back maybe to let's talk a little bit about annotation. So you've chosen your poet. Once you've chosen your poet, you click on their picture or their name, and that's going to take you to an assignment. And the assignment is a Cami, which is a software we use that lets us annotate. And so what that looks like is this. So if I chose Sonia Sanchez, for example, it'll open up her poetry. I have some instructions here on how to annotate. And I am annotating 5 of her poems. If you just sit down and do this, I can't imagine it would take longer than maybe half an hour at most. So you're annotating 5 of her poems. You'll log into this Cami software using your P12 information. So here you can see a selection of her poetry. Some are longer, right? Like this one is several pages long. Some are a page long, right? So Sonia Sanchez is cool like that. And if you chose E.E. Cummings, his poems are going to be shorter. If you chose Carolyn Forche, hers are all kind of like a medium length. So they all kind of balance out in the end. But remember, you're just choosing 5. You are annotating it on 3 different levels. First is kind of just like the literal meaning of the poem. And then you'll go back and using the comments text box feature here in Cami, you're going to talk about what poetic devices the poems are using. And by poetic devices, I'm referring to that list of terms that we came up with as a class. You can typically find it on our daily page under vocab. Words like metaphor, simile, consonants, assonants, euphony, kind of like these fun poetry words that we don't really get to use any other time. So make sure you have that open kind of as you're annotating. And if you can't think of the right fancy poetry word, just describe it, right? If they're rhyming, you don't have to look up like what type of rhyme it is. You could just say like, oh, the poet is rhyming here. And then finally, and most importantly, I would say, is the last level of annotation is where you are questioning and connecting, right? Ask what the poet's doing, ask what things mean, make connections to other things you've read, seen in the world, highlight what's unclear. Is the poem asking larger questions? And if you're really struggling, and actually no matter who you are, I would recommend reading this document. It's the How to Read a Poem document. It's something I got in a college poetry class. I love it, and again, I would highly recommend you read it. Okay, so after you've annotated 5 poems, what do? Well, let's go back to modules, and you'll notice I started labeling the modules. Hopefully it's helpful to kind of guide you, tell you what we're doing each day. So on Friday, the 7th, so at this point last Friday, you turned in a blank Google slideshow. And the instructions for that are here on Friday's module, or you could just go over to the left here and just click on assignments. And it walks you through how to make a Google slideshow and share it. You did this last quarter. Hopefully it's not the most difficult thing. You go to your Google Drive, you hit the new button, you hit the slides button, you give it a title, you go up to the top right corner. So if I go to Drive, let's just do it together real quick, assuming you haven't. If you've already done it, cool. Go to whatever folder is best for you, kind of to keep track of the things you're working on. So for me, I'd go to this school year, and then I'll click on 12th grade. And I'll just make a brand new Google slideshow. I'll give it a title. And the title will be my name. So for you, it would be your name. I'll say what period I am in. So if I'm in second period, I'll just put P2. And then finally, I'll just put the title. I'll call it it's my poet study. So I'll just title it poet study. And that's everything you need to do there. What you'll then do after you've made a blank slideshow is you'll come up here to the share button. And you're not just gonna share like regular, you're going to go down here. You're gonna change the link to editor. Make sure it says editor so I can interact with it. And then you're gonna copy that link. Take that back to this assignment. And let me hop into student view so you can see what I'm looking at. You'll hit start assignment and you are just going to copy and paste. So Control P or double click and hit paste this link and submit it. And I acknowledge that you're turning in a blank one, but it'll update on my end as you work on it, right? So that's why we're doing it this way. Okay, so you've made your Google slideshow. Well, what do we do now? Just like last quarter, you are going to add slides. So on Monday, the 10th, we added our first 2 slides. Basically biographical information that you can kind of just take off the internet. I'm okay with that. Biographical slide, just put it in your own words. This is information you can find from Google for the reviews of your poet. Kind of a cheat is either to go on something like Goodreads, which is a website, or Amazon, and then find a copy of the book, of a book by them or about them, and then grab some of the reviews from that. They might physically be on the cover of the book, right? Like here's one on a Sonia Sanchez book, right? So you might have to get creative for how you find those, but I know you definitely can. Give your slideshow a cool background. And if you need to see my example where I've already done all of this and can model a poet study, click there. Click here, it'll take you to my model poet study with the instructions and then with my own example of it. And then getting completely caught up to today, the 11th of May, you're adding your 3rd slide, which is a response to a political moment. You are identifying one thing that was going on in the world that your poet is responding to in their poetry. And you are using this template, if you need to help answer the question, what political moment is your poet responding to? And so what I've done is I've identified several poems you could look at to maybe help guide that process. Finally, a reminder that I did cover in the first video, but on Wednesdays, you have a poem that needs to be added to your poet presentation or poet portfolio. So that was another document you turned in. So go back, watch the last video for a better explanation of that. So at this point, you should have at least the 2 most recent poems, and you can find those assignments on Wednesdays. But every Wednesday, you are adding a new poem to your poetry portfolio document. And that should hopefully get you all caught up to speed. Tomorrow on the 12th of May, you are adding your 3rd poem. So be looking out on Canvas for those instructions. And other than that, come to office hours, send me emails if you're stuck. There's really, I can't think of any real excuse unless you have been kidnapped and have lost your phone, because you could always at least send me a remind message letting me know what you need. I can be flexible. Please reach out if you need it.